Hello everyone. Today let us understand the first chapter of social science, that is Advent of Europeans to India. Difficult words used during this presentation are used at the end of the presentation. Kindly watch it if you don't understand few words. Please subscribe to encourage to present some more chapters like this. So let's begin. Advent of Europeans to India is about how the Europeans entered India for trading purpose and faced the competition. Since ancient times, there were trade and commerce relationship between India and Europe. There was a great demand for Indian spices like pepper, cardamom, ginger, and many other spices in Europe. The trade relationship continued between India, Europe, and other Asian countries even during Middle Ages. The Arab merchants carried the Asian merchandise into Constantinople of Eastern Roman Empire. Italian merchants would buy these goods from India and then sell in European countries. Like this, Constantinople was the center of international business and considered as the gate of European trade. While Arab merchants had gained monopoly over the trade in Asian countries, Italian traders had gained this monopoly over trade in Europe. The merchandise from Asia had brought good profits to Italian merchants. Here, monopoly is the market where there is less or no competition because of more buyers and a single seller. Now let us see how the fall of Constantinople took place. The trade and commerce between Asia and Europe was taking place through the city of Constantinople. In 1453, the Ottoman Turks captured the city of Constantinople. As a result, all the trade routes connecting the city of Constantinople came under the control of Turks. Then the Turks started levying too many taxes on the goods passing through these routes. As a result, the merchants felt that the trade was not profitable. At the same time, Spain and Portugal were trying to break the monopoly of Italian traders. Then the Portuguese and Spain started encouraging courageous sailors to find a sea route to India. The invention of compass, astrolabes, and gunpowder provided further encouragement to this venture. Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese sailor who left Lisbon and reached Capado near Calicut on the east coast of India in 1498. By this, he was successful in discovering a new sea route to India. This route continued to be the route of trade between India and Europe for many years. Like this, Portuguese were the first to re-establish trade between India and Europe. With success of Portuguese, many Dutch, French, and English arrived at India for trade. This development not only changed the history of India, it also changed the history of European countries. Portuguese were the first to arrive at India for the trade and were also the last to leave India on the sea route. After Vasco da Gama, Francisco de Almeida arrived in India as the Viceroy of Portuguese. He implemented blue water policy in order to establish the supremacy over the sea instead of supremacy over lands. Alfonso de Albuquerque, who came after Almeida, is considered as the real founder of Portuguese Empire in India. He carried on a battle against the Sultan of Bijapur in 1510 and finally won Goa. The Portuguese had complete monopoly over trade with India for almost a century, and their power declined with the arrival of English and French in India. Dutch are from Holland, which is also called as Netherlands. They established United East India Company in 1602 with the aim of doing business with eastern countries and entered countries like India, Java, Sumatra, Indonesia and spice-rich islands. They established warehouses in Surat, Broch, Cambe, Cochin, Nagapatnam, Masulipatanam and Chinsor and other places in India. With this, they broke the monopoly of Portuguese in India. Later, failing to face competition from English and French, Dutch limited themselves to spice-rich islands. In 1600 December 31st, Queen Elizabeth issued a royal charter authorizing East India Company to trade with eastern countries for 15 years. The company started the business formally in 1613. The Mughal Emperor Jahangir issued a royal permission to English to establish their first warehouse or factory at Surat in 1617. In 1617, Sir Thomas Roe arrived at the court of Jahangir as a royal ambassador from the court of James I. He took permission from Jahangir to establish factories in other places of Mughal Empire. English established factories in Agra, Ahmedabad and Broch. In 1639, English took Madras, which is now called Chennai, from the king of Chandragiri and established a strong fort named St. George Fort. Later, Prince of England Charles II had received Bombay in the form of dowry during his marriage. Then, in 1668, Charles II gave Bombay as an annual rent of £10 a year to East India Company. In 1690, the English purchased three villages, namely Sutanati, Kalikata and Govindapura on the banks of Hooghly River and built Fort William. The city of Calcutta grew around this fort. By 17th century, the English had established Bombay, Madras and Calcutta as the centers of their presidencies. By the later part of 18th century, the English made Calcutta as their capital city. They implemented their own civil and criminal procedure codes in the areas that were under their control. French East India Company started as a government-owned company in 1664. It started its first factory in Surat in the year 1668. Later, they established its factories in Machilipatnam, Chandranagara, Mahe, Karaikallu, Kosimbazar, Balasurbere. In 1674, the French took Valikandapuram from a local Muslim official and developed it as a major trade center. Later, that center was called Puducherry or Pondicherry. Dupleix, who arrived in Pondicherry as the Governor-General of French, had the high ambition of establishing French as the major power in South India. This ambition of Dupleix became the major reason for Carnatic Wars between French and English. Now, let us understand how the competition took place between British and French. The Portuguese and Dutch had withdrawn from India, unable to face the competition from French and English by 18th century. Finally, French and English continued to show strength in order to establish their political supremacy over India. Meanwhile, political changes raised in the regions of Hyderabad and Carnatic, and both the English and French tried to make good use of the situation in their favor. This led to three Carnatic Wars. On the request of Dupleix, Le Bourdonnais, a French military leader from Mauritius, invaded Madras and captured it. This forced the helpless British to request the help of Anwaruddin, the Nawab of Carnatic, for support. The army sent by Anwaruddin failed to defeat the French at Madras. Finally, Le Bourdonnais took money from the English and returned Madras and went back to Mauritius. This made Dupleix angry and attempted to take Madras but failed in it. Finally, this war ended with a treaty in Europe between France and England called Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle. Now let us see what happened in the Second Carnatic War, which took place between 1749 to 1754. In the changed circumstances, French made Salabat Jung, another son of Asaf Jah, as the Nizam of Hyderabad. An officer named Bassi was posted in Hyderabad for his protection by French. In Carnatic, Chanda Sahib was a Nawab with the help of French. Robert Clive of East India Company attacked Arcot, the capital city of Carnatic, and defeated Chanda Sahib. Chanda Sahib was imprisoned and later killed in this war. In the place of Chanda Sahib, the English named Muhammad Ali, the son of Anwaruddin, as the Nawab of Carnatic. The Second Carnatic War ended with the Treaty of Pondicherry. French called Dupleix back. This war brought laurels to English, while French suffered a political setback. Now let us understand what happened in Third Carnatic War, which took place between 1756 to 1763. Comte de Lally, the French general, tried to occupy St. George Fort of British in 1760. In this critical battle, Sir Eyre Coote of the British Army defeated the French and imprisoned Bussy. After the attack, Lally escapes and tried to hide in Pondicherry. Finally, Sir Eyre Coote attacked Pondicherry and Lally had to surrender unconditionally in 1761. After Carnatic Wars, French had to lose all their bases in India due to Carnatic Wars. In spite of this, as per the Treaty of Paris in 1763, Pondicherry was returned to French. With these developments, French lost their importance in India. Like this, English, by defeating all their rivals, started uniting their power over the southern India. Robert Clive, who laid the firm foundation of the British power in India, had joined the East India Company as clerk. He played a critical role in Carnatic Wars, particularly in the siege of Arcot, and played a big role in the British victory. He was successful in establishing the British rule over South India and supported in Bengal victory as well. After the Battle of Plassey in 1757, he also gained control over the Nawab of Bengal. Clive gathered huge wealth in all these events and helped the East India Company to earn more profit. Clive returned to England with huge wealth and became the Member of Parliament. So once Clive returned to England, the East India Company started facing losses in its business. Even though there were many complaints against Clive, the British government had to resend Clive to India to save the company and also save the face of the country. The British won the Buxar battle and earned back its respect again. Clive was successful in assuring the Diwani rights for the British over Bengal, Bihar and Odisha regions. Here, Diwani rights are the rights used to collect land taxes. Here, instead of Nawab, East India Company had the right to collect land taxes as well as the revenue earned through these three regions. Whereas Nawab had power to solve the administration issues like justice and others. This concept introduced by Clive is called as dual government. Like this, Robert Clive and East India Company were successful in earning wealth through dual government. Dupleix was named the Governor-General of French regions in India in 1742. He dreamt of achieving French harmony over India and entered into treaties with the local kings. Hyder Ali was also trained in the army of locals raised by Dupleix. The British considered Dupleix as a formidable challenge to them. Hence, we notice clashes between the French and the British to gain supremacy over Carnatic and Deccan Plateau. Dupleix played an important role in the First Carnatic War in 1746. The rivalry between the French and the British continued till 1754. Later, French government recalled Dupleix as it wanted peace. After gaining political control over South India, the British tried to gain control over rich Bengal state in the later part of 18th century. The Bengal state had achieved huge growth in the area of agriculture, commerce and industry. The East India Company was making considerable profit from the state. Mughal ruler Farrukh Shiara issued the Dastak license, which made East India Company to make huge profit from the state. Import and export of goods, that is, any commercial purpose of transferring the goods from one country to the other, was supposed to pay tax. But those merchants who had the Dastak license were not required to pay taxes for importing and exporting of their goods. Along with this, the merchants were able to import and export their goods anywhere. But these dastaks that were limited to the company transactions were misused by the individual officers of the company too. This resulted in huge loss to the Bengal government. Hence, all Nawabs from Murashid Ali Khan to Ali Wardi Khan were opposing such misuses. Later, this led to differences in opinions between the Nawabs and the company. This resulted in two important wars which charted a critical course to Indian history. Plassey and Buxar were those two wars. Alivardi Khan, the Nawab of Bengal, died in 1756. Later, Alivardi Khan's grandson Sirajuddaula accepted the throne. Soon after Sirajuddaula became the Nawab of Bengal, a battle took place between the young Nawab Sirajuddaula and the British in 1757. This battle is called Battle of Plassey. Battle of Plassey took place for three main reasons. The first reason is misuse of dastaks. Sirajuddaula was furious that the dastaks were misused by the officials of the company, incurring losses to the government treasury. Secondly, mending of the fort without permission. The British repaired the fort of Calcutta and placed cannons in them. This further angered Sirajuddaula and he ordered the removal of cannons from the court. The British refused to do this, angering the Nawab further. And the third reason is Black Room tragedy. Sirajuddaula captured Fort William easily. Later, in a small room of Fort William, out of those 146 British, 123 died in the same room. This is why it got the name Black Room tragedy. After hearing this, Robert Clive was furious and arrived to Bengal with a large army. These are the three main reasons which led to a great war called Battle of Plassey. Robert Clive attracted rich locals of Bengal like Manikchand, Omichand, Jagat Seth and others successfully towards him. He was successful in convincing Mir Jafar, the military head of Sirajuddaula, to stay neutral in the battle by offering him the post of Nawab of Bengal. After all these plans, Robert Clive declared war against Sirajuddaula. Everything went according to the plan of Clive. Sirajuddaula, who tried to escape from the battlefield, was captured and killed. This war not only resulted in the lack of unity among Indians, but also increased the greediness of Indian businessmen. As agreed, Robert Clive named Mir Jafar as the Nawab of Bengal. Later, East India Company gained exclusive rights to do business in Bengal. Due to the previous attack of Fort William by Sirajuddaulla's army, Mir Jafar had to pay rupees 17 crores and 17 lakhs in the form of fine to East India Company. Due to the greed of East India Company and its officers, the treasury went bankrupt. Since Mir Jafar was made the Nawab of Bengal with limited power, he failed to stop the misuse of power by them. Later, the British figured Mir Jafar as an inefficient Nawab and brought in his nephew Mir Qasim as the new Nawab. Like this, Battle of Plassey was successful in enhancing the power over Bengal by British. Mir Qasim was an efficient administrator. In the beginning, he remained loyal to the company. He paid 2 lakh pounds to the company and gave away few places to it. Shortly, he declared himself as an independent king. After verifying the misuse of dastaks, he declared that the business is duty-free in Bengal. As a result, the Indians competed against British in all areas of business. Therefore, the British trade suffered to a great extent. This angered British heavily. Therefore, Mir Qasim was dethroned and was replaced again by Mir Jafar as the Nawab of Bengal. As Mir Qasim knew about the cunningness of the British, he went for an organized war against them. He was supported by the Indian merchants and artisans. Mir Qasim entered into agreements with the Mughal ruler Shah Alam II and Nawab of Awadh Shujā ud-Daula. The combined forces of Mir Qasim faced the British army led by Hector Munro at Buxar in 1764. Mir Qasim got defeated and ran away from the battlefield. Shah Alam II surrendered. The efforts of the combined forces of these three Nawabs to stop the British force failed completely. Battle of Plassey led to 4 major outcomes. Firstly, British prisoner Shah Alam II granted the Diwani rights over Bengal, that is the right to collect taxes, to British. Secondly, Shah Alam II gave away all the rights over Bengal to British for an annual fee of rupees 26 lakhs. Thirdly, the Nawab of Awadh had to give away a fine of rupees 50 lakh for waging a war against the company. Then the fourth outcome is, with the death of Mir Jafar, the company paid pension to his son and took over the entire administration of Bengal. The Buxar battle made the British as the real holders of power over Bihar, Bengal and Odisha provinces. Even Awadh remained under their control. In 1765, Robert Clive brought in dual government concept. As per this concept, the British had the right to collect land taxes, whereas the Nawab had power over administrative issues like justice and others. Like this, the British gained political control over India to protect their business interest. To watch the same video in Kannada, click the link in the description box below. Friends, kindly encouraged to make such educational videos. Please subscribe, share and like my videos. Thank you and happy learning.